All right, welcome to Hammer Factor, episode number 10, Descents and Diseases.
You sure it's 10? I think it's 9.
No, it's definitely 10. I messed up last time, and you weren't here last time. Speaking of that,
That makes it 9.
hang on, let me do my intro.
It
No,
did,
I did the show.
it did exist if I wasn't there.
I pulled it together, and I
This
got
is
it
going to be
done.
like the Who touring without Roger Daltrey. You cannot call it the Who unless you have Roger Daltrey.
Hey, you missed a good interview with Aniel Sarasos.
I know.
Do you know anything about
I
this
know.
guy?
I do. How could I not know about him?
So
I mean, he's
So here's one
yeah.
thing you didn't know is he had a
Yes.
totally broken, the bone had healed, but he had like torn ligaments and the whole 9 yards while he
Yeah.
was doing all that stuff on the Stikine and winning the sick line and the whole 9 yards. Some great stories. Through one of the cruxest, meatiest parts of the Stikine, after he took a swim, he filled his dry bag up with air, held on tight and jumped in the river. And just to hear him tell the stories of dropping down into the seams and just going under and having to really relax and conserve air until he came back to the surface, and doing this over and over for a couple kilometers until he finally had a place where he could get out, and then he found his boat with Benny. I mean, it was nuts.
He's an adventurer.
He is an adventure. But
All right, so let's talk about let's segue this into the Whitewater Grand Prix.
Okay.
Because we're talking about top-notch paddlers. The Whitewater Grand Prix was an event that somehow collected these people together. So you have to give me some background on this. It's a Canadian event, right? I mean, I think it was originally a Canadian event. I know they had one down south in Chile or something one year.
Yeah, well, originally the idea of the Whitewater Grand Prix was to collect the world's best paddlers, travel around to various destinations, and put on competitions, freestyle competitions, races, like that, and really make it I don't know if I want to say like a rampage kind of event, but really showcase the sport, I guess would be. And I thought it was a great event.
But here's the thing, right? It was put together by, as far as I can tell, Tribe Rider.
It was put together by
That
Pat Camlin.
Okay, that's what I need to get to the bottom of. And
Yeah.
what's Tribe Rider? I mean, I see the things around, the hoodies and whatnot.
I believe.
I kinda know. I mean,
originally it was meant to be a whitewater clothing company.
Right.
So you know how challenging that can be.
I do.
I guess let me sum it up, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree with my opinion. I think it was
Yes.
a great event. I think that
Right.
the guys who put it on did as good a job as they could on a shoestring budget. I think it's super admirable that they wanted to travel to these various locations and do this event, and I thought it was an incredible event.
Right.
But as someone who's been around Whitewater, been in the industry for a long period of time, it is 100% unsustainable. And
That's right.
just because there's just not enough money for it. All those plane tickets, not only is it
That's right.
unsustainable to get sponsorship, to put the event on, to have your crew, to have your cameras, to even give a meager day wage to everybody, it's hard for the athletes who are coming to afford the plane tickets unless they're independently wealthy. They can't call IR and say, "Hey, I need $2,000 to go down to this competition."
Oh, they could call.
So really what it comes down to, great idea, executed. I know I talked to Pat, and he put some money on his credit card and really gave
Right.
it his all.
And he put four or five of these things on, or four of them that I could think of, right? 2011, 2012?
I think
something like
three. I think there was three of them.
that? Okay.
But I just don't think it's a realistic thing unless you had someone. And I don't even think a corporate backer is what you'd need to make something like this happen. You would need.
Well, okay. Well, the thing is you and I both know that these things aren't possible in paddle sports because the market isn't big enough. I mean, this is a kind of event that if it was snowboarding or if it was surfing or skiing, it would work, or it could work.
Well,
you know what I mean? The money's there.
It already does
they
work
could get
in those events.
Yeah.
I'm
But
in no sports.
Whitewater, yeah, I always tell people Whitewater's like it's like super string theory. The physics get so small, nothing makes sense anymore. It just is not, nothing adds up. Um, and an event like this is an expensive event to put on. It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of passion on top of the money. You know,
Yeah, and a ton of time, both before and after. Just
I mean, the only person who's going to pick up this tab is going to be Teva, and Teva already, I think, has invested all they want into paddle sports.
yeah, they're not even into performance sports anymore. They're a fashion brand.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know,
But well, you and I put on an event many years ago called the Vacation to Hell, which was a great event, and honestly, relatively speaking, not that expensive. And to refresh everyone's memory, 'cause I know most people have heard of this and are intimately familiar with it. But for the two or three of you out there who don't, Vacation to Hell was an event that we put on where we would, in secret, decide a kayak expedition that needed to be done, that we felt was important for the sport, and then we would solicit video sponsorships from people, from teams of 4 kayakers,
right.
and they wouldn't know where they're going. They're just making claims about the quality of their team to do anything, and then we'd announce the winner and tell them where they're going at the same time. And we'd make a
Yes.
movie out of it. And we did 2 of these before we all ran out of money.
And the big hit, what made the Vacation to Hell, there are several expeditionary grants out there, but what made this one special is people submitted their applications to go on this expedition, but they didn't know where it was at. I think
Right.
that's an important thing to stress about the Vacation to Hell, the IR Vacation to Hell.
It was a great. I thought it was a great, really neat idea. We asked everybody for money. Thule, Subaru, Yakima. I don't know if we hit up Red Bull or not, but if they had any kind of cash, we asked them, and it was a resounding no across the board.
It
No one
was
wanted
a struggle, and even going down and getting the plane tickets for the expedition that went up to Devon Islands, there were $30,000 worth of plane tickets negotiated to get those guys up there.
Yeah.
Just like it's uncanny the work that a lot of people have never planned an expedition or really went through the effort, but to lay that groundwork, I wish there was a way to, maybe there's something, maybe we should bring it back just on a credit basis. We got this expedition. If you can figure out a way to pull it off yourself, we'll give you cash at the end of it.
Who's cash? Yours, right?
Well, it's going to have to be the Amongst It Vacation to Hell then.
Well, you sold LVM. You socked away a few million from that, right?
I'm essentially retired at this point. That's why I'm getting ready to go to the Grand Canyon.
Well, good for you. That's great. Well, anyway, Whitewater Grand Prix is no more. That's what we're talking about. It is gone. It's done, and it went the way of many other quality whitewater events.
Yeah,
and I don't know what the answer is.
Well, and it's pending. There could be a Whitewater Grand Prix come back. There could be some people who rally up there, but
yeah. Well, I have a formula for success, right? And I think it's what those guys at the North Fork of the Pad are doing, right? What you do is you make a manageable event and you run it in a shoestring for about 20 years. At the end of 20 years, you will proven yourself as like credit worthy for a bigger sponsor.
Yeah,
and a bigger sponsor will come and take care of it, because by then you will build like a legacy. But it's going to take 20 years, 2 decades.
It took the Green Race 21 years.
Right. I think that's right. That's the length of time.
No, I hear you. It's a struggle. Awesome event. I think there's there could be some effort to continue it, but I did see the post that it's no more, and I think that's worthy of mentioning here on the Hammer Factor. So,
yeah. All right.
Moving on.
What's next?
Moving on now. Let's look on Skype here and see if our man Lewis has chimed in, and he has not. But moving on. So we're going to have to make this work on this conservation piece here. So just passed in Congress with a unanimous and bipartisan vote, the Outdoor Recreation Jobs and Economic Impact Act. What it says is now outdoor recreation jobs, the whole economy of outdoor recreation is going to be added to the gross domestic product. You're part of the outdoor industry, John. What do you think of that?
I think it's good. No, I think it's great. I think it's great. But you look at places like, shoot, everywhere. I mean, Utah. This was brought to my attention because of Utah and the Outdoor Retailer Show, and the amount of money they've been pouring into keeping that show in Utah. And obviously, they have, politically, Utah's a very Republican state, but they were pushing hard to keep that event there. And so for me, it was a first indication that states, were taking outdoor recreation as a serious industry, because, Utah spends millions upon millions of dollars in incentives to keep that show there. Oh, yeah. But you talk about what jobs are bolstering the U.S. economy, and the service industry and recreation are the two big ones.
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, here in Asheville, we see it. It's very front and center. People, and I talk about the green race a lot, but in this green race we had, just a small whitewater kayaking event, or I guess it's a big whitewater kayaking event, but it's just a whitewater kayaking event. We had 10 countries represented this year, 175 racers, people coming in from racers that came in from 22 different states. If you're a small town like Saluda, that's a big impact. And yeah. I think, and that's just that event. I think, like some states like Colorado, it's a cornerstone of their economy, for it to not be counted and to not be incentivized, I think it's just a really good thing that has happened. Have you heard of Ain't Louis Fest?
No. Who?
Ain't Louis Fest.
So the Whitewater Grand Prix is gone, but Ain't Louis Fest is going strong. I'm guessing.
It is thriving, dude. It is thriving. It happens every April.
Right.
I can't believe you've never seen Ain't Louis Fest, dude. It's literally like over 100 canoers that all get together, and they kayak all over the Southeast. People come from Canada, all over the country, and
maybe they could run the Whitewater Grand Prix. They could take it over.
They meet at Shoney's, and they split up into groups, and they go off and run everything, and they have a big race on the Tellico that has like over 100 canoers.
Because you have to canoe. Is that it?
Oh yeah, don't show up in a kayak, dude. No butt boaters. If you show up there in a kayak, dude, it's like,
It's like Pee Wee Herman of the biker bar.
It's exactly like Pee Wee Herman. That's good you came up with that, because I had an analogy that I couldn't say on the air.
Right.
But anyway, it's blowing up. So moving forward, we're going to get on to our celebrity guest. John, you better start over from the beginning. This episode, we're talking about diseases and whitewater diseases, and hence our call with Tyler, legendary kayaker.
Yeah.
And tell me what you know about Tyler's infliction while I get him on the line here.
Yeah, well, Tyler was on the this sort of worldwide tour on this boat, the Wizard's Eye, and somewhere in his travels, and Tyler can tell us more about this, he contracted Leishmaniasis, which is something you get from a sandfly. It's a bite-eating sandfly, and in some cases, it turns into what's sort of the equivalent of a flesh-eating bacteria. I mean, it's really awful if it gets bad. And it looks like, I don't know if you've seen pictures of Tyler, but he got bit in his lips, or his lip, and it looks bad. And I think in some cases they treat this with radiation. But I'm sure Tyler can tell us more about it. I want to hear where he thinks this happened, how long it took to show symptoms. Is this something that travels there? About, like, what's the whole story?
Yeah, I'm super interested too. There's a picture that Tyler, are you there?
Yeah, man, I'm here. I'm trying to get the video going. Let's see here. I think this will work. Sorry, guys, a little slow this morning.
You look a hell of a lot better, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, totally. I know it is really getting better. This morning, actually, for the first time, I woke up and I was like, man, this is like significantly improved. It's like only time I've been able to totally tell improvement. But yeah, you can sort of see it a little bit there still.
Oh my God. Hang on.
Still hanging in there, but not nearly as bad as it used to be. So yeah, I'm stoked.
You were the guy you would go to like Target and kids would run screaming. I mean,
exactly.
With all due respect, it looked bad.
Literally like cross the road to walk by me, man. It was so bad there for a while. For a while I just didn't know what it was. I was like super self-conscious about it, It was like, and now that I find out that it's like a parasite, it's not just like a terrible case of herpes or something,
Like just bad hygiene. Like
brush your teeth, man.
Showering for 2 months.
Or something. I'm like, dude, this is beyond that.
So hold on, back up for a second. Back up. So
hang on before we
traveling.
Hang on
All
a second. Let me introduce Tyler to our viewers who don't know.
I'm sorry.
Tyler Bratt is a world famous. Needs no introduction. World record holder for the highest waterfall, Palouse Falls. Been on many high-profile expeditions. Been kayaking since. When did you start kayaking, Tyler?
Yeah, since I was 6 years old. Quite a while.
Just coming off a
7 years.
A wizard's eye trip, traveling around the world, and Tyler, you are. How's it going? First of all, before we were just blown away by this picture coming up on Skype.
Man, it's going great, man. Yeah, stoked to be here on the Hammer Factor with you boys. This is this is pretty cool, man. So yeah, I mean, I would rather be out paddling or back at the boat. I'm supposed to be in Colombia right now, but this has kind of popped up, so I'm just hanging out here at Mom's house, just chilling chilling at Mom's, getting better. So yeah, but hopefully I'm on the mend. I picked up a bad case of this stuff called Leishmaniasis in Colombia. It's a parasite transmitted through sandflies, and so I got the mucosal form, which means that it attacks my my lips, my mucous membranes, and it got super gnarly, and the treatment is pretty gnarly too. It's like this sort of chemotherapy stuff that they put you on. So I'm 11 out of 20 treatments into finishing this thing up, and then hopefully I'll be back in my boat, man. I'm getting a little stir crazy here.
So when do you remember? Like, do you remember a time when you got these things are small? Like a lot of times you wouldn't even know you got bit by this thing, right? This sandfly.
Yeah, I mean they're small, but they pack a punch. You usually know when you're getting bit by them. But so we were doing this crazy descent of the Calceta River in southwestern Colombia. Jules, Dominique, and I were trying to get through about 1,000-kilometer section of this river, and it starts high in the mountains, and then heads out into the Amazon basin. And our goal was to access this big water canyon that really nobody had seen before, way down there on the Amazon. And so we thought this trip was going to take us 8 or 10 days. It ended up taking us 20 days. I mean, the river was flooded. We were spending days and days portaging through the jungle and then traversing 780 kilometers of this flat water. And then, and in the meantime, I mean, dude, it's like spring break in Cancun for the sandflies down there, man. I mean, they are just going crazy, dude. It's nuts.
It's like a little senior frog full of sandflies.
And so we were, both probably bit thousands of times by sandflies down there. I mean, it's it's just one of those things you deal with. It's just one of the parts of the jungle that you just have to kind of embrace and get through it, and you cover up as much as you can. But nevertheless, I mean, we were bit a bunch of times. Leishmaniasis is transmitted through mammals. So it can be human. Sandfly can bite a human with Leishmaniasis. And get the parasite that way and then spread it. It also happens a lot through dogs, and so I think that I probably picked this up in one of the indigenous villages that we were
you have to have a vector for this thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it was probably in one of these villages. I got this thing on my mouth. I also have cutaneous leishmaniasis. I've got this like big like leishmaniasis spot on my right butt cheek as well, actually, which is kind of interesting. So mucosal
you got a picture of that?
And I don't know, man. I think I picked it up actually. We were at this village. We were trying to hitch a ride in this like motorized canoe. The motor broke down. We ended up in this village.
And nobody had lips. The whole village was lipless.
So we're hanging out there, and dude, I was sort of sick, and I really had to take a crap, so I ran in the bushes, in the woods, and I'm there with my pants around my ankles, and I got totally attacked by these sandflies, and I think that's maybe where it picked up, just because this one spot's on my right butt cheek. So I don't know, man. That's like my best guess. But,
so
yeah.
but if you get it in your butt, it could go to the mucous membranes as well. It's not like two separate infections, right?
Exactly. What happens is the parasite goes in, gets inside your white blood cells, actually multiplies inside your white blood cells.
Yeah.
And then depending on the parasite as well as the host, how your immune system is, it will migrate to wherever it ends up. And so it's really weird that the mucosal leishmaniasis apparently usually affects people that are compromised, meaning that their immune systems are very compromised. And so one of the first things they did when they saw it, they diagnosed it. I mean, they did 3 HIV tests on me, just to see what was
I bet
going.
you're freaking out when that's all going on.
Yeah, they're like, dude, how did you end up with this? And so, but the only thing I can think of is, this trip was just so gnarly, and towards the end of it, I was, I had a fever for the last 4 days. I was really struggling. We sort of ran low on food, and so I was battling. My body was battling, and so I think that I was, I had compromised my own immune system enough just through the course of this expedition that it kind of, gave a doorway to this leishmaniasis to become mucosal. And
so when did you first start seeing symptoms of this? How much longer after the?
It was 2 months. It was a full 2 months after the expedition that I started seeing it. And so it's anywhere from 2 months to 24 months you can develop symptoms of leishmaniasis after you're infected. And so yeah, it's so weird, it's such a bizarre thing. I never had even heard of it before being infected by it. And apparently it's not as uncommon as you might think. I guess there's about 1 million cases of this a year. I think the mucosal form is one of the rarest forms of it. But yeah, it affects a lot of people. It's over in Europe and the Middle East, as well as, Central America and Northern South America. So yeah, it's out there.
So you get this. What are the first symptoms that you have that you start to feel like something's not quite right?
Well, I guess the first symptoms that I had was I had I went paddling one day, and it got kind of sunburned, and so and then these blisters started appearing on my lips, and I didn't know what it was. I was like, oh, these are just bad sun blisters, maybe. Couldn't figure it out. They kept getting worse. They turned into these little open sores, and I went to the local doctor, and he was like, oh, dude, it looks like you got a bad case of herpes simplex virus, and he put me on antivirals for 15 days, and so for 2 weeks I was just oh man, this is gnarly, dude. I just got cold sores from hell right now. I've never had them before, so I didn't really know what they were like. And then I saw another doctor. He's like, oh yeah, it looks like
cold sores inside of your mouth, or just are they just inside of your mouth or on your lips, or
on my lips? Yeah, on my lips and the visible part of your lip there, not really on the inside, more on the outside. And so I ended up seeing like 3 doctors, and just going on this array of antibiotics and antivirals, and then finally it was just getting so gnarly that I was just like, dude, I need a proper opinion. And I went to the emergency room up here in Missoula, Montana, and the infectious disease doc came and saw me, and I am so lucky that this guy was the one dude that came in and saw me, because he's the only guy in all of Montana that's ever even seen leishmaniasis before. And within like 10 minutes of talking to me, he had it like diagnosed, and the next day they cut out pieces of my lip to send to the Center of Disease Control over in Atlanta to get it diagnosed. But if he hadn't diagnosed it and sent these samples to the CDC specifically to look for leishmaniasis, I mean, they would still be trying to grow a culture of this thing somewhere, dude. And my face would be, my upper lip would probably be gone right now. It was about 70. It was covering about 75% of my upper lip. By the time they diagnosed it, and it was just so swollen. My lip was like sticking out past my nose, dude. It was.
Dude, I saw some pictures. So what would have happened if you wouldn't have got treatment? Like, where does it end?
It could be fatal, right? It could kill you.
Yeah, it'll eventually kill you. The mucosal stuff, generally, it'll literally eat away your lips and your nose and sort of leave this like big hole in your face. And the way that it generally kills people, if it doesn't go to a visceral state, which means that it starts attacking your organs, it generally just kills people through malnourishment, actually, just because it gets so difficult to eat anything, and you just sort of just waste away. Yeah. So it's gnarly, man. I mean, we're so lucky, because we have access to, some amazing doctors and some great medicine, I mean, my heart goes out to all of those locals, that are chilling there on the banks of the Amazon right now, without a means to treat it. And it does affect, more, like poor people, the people that, maybe have immune systems that are already compromised and don't have access to medicine. And so, in that sense, it's really gnarly. I mean, dude, I'm lucky. I'm laughing, I mean, it's like, the treatment sucks, and it sucks to, be here at home when I'd rather be paddling, but, I'm going to get through it. No problem. There's, millions of people out there that it's just, going untreated, and it's just a runaway train. So,
well, man, was there a time where you're like, you're going to lose a piece of your face or a piece of your lips, or is that ever a concern?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the and there, it was getting to the point where there was going to be some disfiguration, and still they think that there'll probably be a little bit of disfiguration. But I mean, I don't really care what I look like. I just want to, get this thing sorted, and and get back to doing the stuff that I love to do. So so it'll be interesting, but yeah, it shouldn't be bad. Yeah, Lewis, or who is that?
That's Geltman.
Lewis.
What's up, buddy?
Our policy council
better late than never
decided to join us. I did. So Lewis, take a look.
Where were you,
I'll take some shit from Grace, but none from you for not showing up on time, Weld.
Dude, take a look. Take a look at Tyler, dude. How much better does he look? About?
So much better, dude.
Oh my God. So what now? So
you have something. It looks like you have something in your lip, like some beacon or something.
Yeah, I know, man. In the mornings it's particularly bad. I mean, I've got this PICC line, and I don't know if you can see that. So that's where they do the infusions, and I have to put this like blood thinner in there at night to keep this PICC line open.
Listening, Tyler's showing us like a needle going into like an IV needle sticking in his arm.
Yeah, basically what it is it goes in, it's a PICC line, so it actually runs all the way through to like just above your heart, which is crazy. It's this super long thing they stick in just so that they can leave it there for weeks, and so anyway, yeah, I have to put like this blood thinner in, and then like right before I go to bed, and then like it makes my lip bleed so much, so I wake up like my mustache, which I've been growing to try to hide this thing. Blood. There's like blood down both sides of my cheeks. My pillow's covered. I'm like, oh, dude, it gets a little gnarly at night, but yeah, man, it's all good.
Dude, you look so much better than you did.
Awful.
But I mean, you got to admit, he looks a million times better than that picture we were passing around.
No doubt. I was nervous. Tyler was going to come on. I was just going to be like, this would be like a really awkward silence.
I was just going to hold my eyes the whole show.
Well, it could be very different, man, if I didn't get diagnosed. So I'm lucky. I mean, my main piece of advice to people that are like out there, like paddling in these weird places that we get to, is if you come back and something's going on, you know, like don't go to the family doctor, like go and find like an infectious disease doctor, because that's the one thing that saved me. I mean, no local doctor was going to be able to diagnose this, you know, and so it's better just to like try to use the resources you have available to you, like go to an infectious disease doctor somewhere where they kind of know what's going on, and see what's happening. I mean, you know, I've come back to the States plenty of times with weird stuff, malaria, Leishmaniasis, you know. I mean, you know, Benny Marr had that gnarly thing going on, you know, that he picked up in Colombia. I mean, you know, there's so many instances of paddlers coming back with these sort of weird things that doctors can't diagnose it, and you know,
they require
and it's
specialty treatment. You know, they require specialty treatment. You can't just take around a Z-Pack.
Especially
for them,
it's
Yeah.
24 months after you've been back, and the last thing in your mind is a trip to Colombia.
Exactly. So I mean, it's just, I mean, it's sort of opened my eyes to the stuff that's out there, you know. And I mean, I wouldn't, you know, don't let it, you know, dissuade you from going on these you know, sweet trips and expeditions, but just you know, just like keep it in mind that you might be able to pick something weird up, like some crazy protozoa that floats around in your white blood cells and attacks your lips, and just don't be afraid to go and, like, you know, proper treatment. I mean, go to a doctor to get a real diagnosis, I guess, is my advice.
So here's my takeaway. My takeaway is that while Google Earth has pretty much watered down what it means to be an adventurer in the 21st century, diseases are still real. That's what I'm hearing.
It's still out there. And in fact,
that's a topic for another show, by the way.
More so than ever, actually, because, you know, as deforestation, dams getting built, stuff like that, I mean, it decreases the biodiversity in these areas and allows these it allows these, you know, organisms that are transmitting these things breeding grounds. And so, you know, we're seeing, like, you know, rises in sandfly populations, mosquitoes, you know, all over the world. And so, I mean, I guess now more than ever, you know, some of these diseases are really, you know, really prevalent. So yeah, just keep them in mind.
Where do you stand on DEET?
Dude, DEET is, man, you know, do whatever it takes
I love DEET.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, obviously, your first line of defense is like covering up, you know, just like wear leggings, wear long sleeves, you know, do what you can to cover most of your body, but those parts of your body that are inevitably exposed, man, yeah, dude, DEET works better than than most anything else. I mean, yeah, whatever it takes. I mean, the other place this could have come from was Brazil. I mean, we were getting eaten by, you know, on an overnighter in Brazil once, and we didn't have any DEET, dude. And I just covered myself in mud, dude, and that tended to work all right as well. So whatever worked.
Dude, we were in Brazil one time on an overnighter, and God, we came out of the woods so eaten up, and it was so wretched. I mean, I had over 100 ticks on my waist and everything when I took my spray skirt off. I mean, I don't know how I didn't end up with some kind of funk, but God, that's a savage story, dude.
Yeah. You were in New Guinea, weren't you, Tyler?
Yeah. I was out there as well, man. Yeah, for sure.
That's the hot spot right there in New Guinea. There's a lot of fun stuff going on there.
A lot of fun stuff going on there. I mean, and it's just, you know, there's just like a million mysteries of the jungle, you know, and it's sort of the reason that you go to those places, because there is so much out there that you just don't know about, that nobody knows about, you know. I mean, these places are magical and amazing and difficult to exist in, but, you know, beautiful and incredible. And some of the places that kayaking takes us, you know, I mean, that's, you know, one of the reasons that makes our sport just so, you know, mind-blowing is that it's this, you know, semi-effortless way to travel through just the most rugged, impenetrable wildernesses in the world. And so we're lucky because we do get to see these wild, pristine places, but we're also coming in contact with things, especially especially, you know, me, you know, I'm like some, you know, dude with Scandinavian blood from Montana, you know. I mean, dude, my I probably have, not been exposed, to the jungles for, millions of years, evolutionarily, and so it's like, dude, I feel like you're a little bit more susceptible to that sort of stuff. Your body's not ready for it. So
I remember
yeah.
hiking through the rainforest in Indonesia with a bunch of locals, and they were like tribal locals, like loincloths and all that. And we had a translator, but I asked one of the guys, I was like, you guys are really good shape. Everyone here looks so healthy, and I was thinking, oh, it's because they eat like fish and all this natural foods and stuff. And the guy's like, no, it's because basically when anyone gets sick, they just die here. And that was it. And I just remember thinking the jungle's here to kill you. It's just it's gonna
It's so savage in the jungle, dude.
eat you alive. That's the main
It's
goal.
so savage, and humans are so soft, right? I mean, it's like we don't have a lot going for us other than our ability to our cognitive skills to be able to prepare for it and think our way out of it, but when it comes down to it, man, like people, we got this like soft exposed skin all over our bodies, I mean, we're just like so susceptible to everything out there. So it's true, man. The jungle will literally eat you alive, man. You got to be you got to prepare for it. Then you got to be ready for something to happen, when you do get out of there. But yeah, again, man, the locals
feel like you're on
this stuff.
You're on borrowed time,
True, man. Yeah.
What so is Hesh going to come on board, or should we? Tyler has a little bit of waterfall running experience.
Tyler, this is perfect. Yeah, because I got a message from Hesh. It says my computer is too old to update to the new software. So
classic, dude.
I think Hesh is out on this one. So let's
Hesh is like a microwave right now. He's like hitting it with his fist.
Dude, he's sitting there just like.
He's been up for like 5 hours too, so he just like got around in the last 2 minutes to figuring it out, man. Classic.
Well, I'm gonna change. We're gonna do it. We're gonna change topics here. That's an incredible story, Tyler. Thanks for sharing that with us. Holy moly, I'm glad that you are on the up and up, man.
Yeah, man. Just keep your eyes out there, everybody, and be prepared for something weird to happen when you come back from these places. That's my only advice, just keep it in mind.
That's good advice. Dude, I can't, and I'm going to say it one last time. You look so much better than that last picture, man.
Yeah, dude. I'm stoked.
So, Tyler, here on the show, we do viewer mail. So people will send us comments, concerns, questions. They'll point out articles and various things, and we try to answer one or two of them. And we got some viewer mail requesting that we break down waterfall running technique, specifically on waterfalls over 30 feet.
Oh, man. Lewis, bro, hit it up, bud.
30 feet's too high for me, man.
Spirit's like 33, bro. You got this.
I walked around it not 1 hour ago.
The last time I paddled with Lewis, dude, we showed up at Big Brother. It was roosting, man, and he and I just both like immediately carried around the thing. It was like, this is great. Partner in crime, man. No, dude. So, dude, waterfall running over 30 feet, man. I mean, it really depends on the waterfall. I would say, you look at a waterfall like Spirit, 30 feet, people aren't really going for the true plug off Spirit very often, hardly at all, So I would say that your gray area, and like, where to like try to, come in a little bit 45 and try to get out away from the base of the waterfall, is sort of, you have a little bit of wiggle room in there, like 20 to, like say 35, maybe 40 feet, just really depending on the waterfall. I would say that the thing that you need to keep in mind with running waterfalls is that every single waterfall is different, and and that's the beauty of what we do. You can't really just be like, all right, how do you you run like a 35-foot waterfall, because every single one of them is going to be different. But I would say as you start getting up there, the viewer probably wants to know like what's the technique for running like a big waterfall that you do not want to boof. And I would say the main thing that you want to figure out as you're like learning to do it, and definitely start on smaller waterfalls, but just make sure your bow doesn't come up. Don't be like taking that that instinctive stroke off the lip to boof it. I mean, dude, I will. I have learned every single lesson in life the hard way, because that's how I learned. And yeah, man, you just do not want to. You want to keep
looking at this picture of you right now. I'm in full agreement.
And so yeah, man. So generally, what you want to do, is have your body in a fairly like upright position. Maybe just slightly forward. Come up to the lip. Let your bow drop. You can sort of set your angle with your paddle as you're going into free fall. So as you're coming off the lip, there's sort of this one fluid motion. Your one point in time to really control the angle of your boat is at the lip of the falls. And so I sort of, will let my boat fall down to the angle that I wanted at, take a little bit of a stroke to set it there, and then try to, get forward, make sure that you're tucked. Your paddle is, away from your body, off to the side. It's there's a lot of just like finesse in that feeling of going over the lip. And so what I would say is that as you start running waterfalls, just get really used to that feeling, and spend a lot of time on some smaller waterfalls, and just really get used to how your boat is reacting at the lip of the waterfall, because it's more of a feeling thing. It's like you can explain it all you want, but I mean, I think that a lot of the people running big waterfalls will tell you that there's just a lot of just like finesse in that feeling of going into free fall that allows you to run these waterfalls consistently, and that only happens through practice. So my best advice is just don't boof it.
That's good advice. Sometimes I'll tell.
See, but paddling out east, you paddle out east, though, it's like you go up to the lip, and it's like it's in your cells now to go up for the lip and pull yourself off. I don't know that I could stop that.
Sure. Yeah, totally, man. And so it's exactly, man. And out east, you have to. I mean, I don't know. Are there any waterfalls you can plug out there, or is there? Oh
yeah,
you have to pretty much boop everything.
There's several. There's several down here. They're good. But one thing that I will add is that I think it's real good to spot your landing. When I was first getting into running waterfalls, when I finally realized I needed to like come over the transition and look where I was going to land, it made things connect a little bit better, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, totally,
so do you
man.
throw the paddle or not throw the paddle? Is there like a stylistic problem with throwing the paddle?
I mean, dude, throwing the paddle is cool. It works. I've been doing it. I'm a little bit more old school. I like to keep a hold of my paddle, but I mean, it just again depends on the waterfall, dude. If you've got something to deal with after you land, then dude, you want to hold on to your paddle, man. If you're, if it's something like Metlaco or something, where you're just getting flushed into, a nice big pool, and you don't want to spend another $300 on a paddle, then chuck that thing away, dude. But it's it's just totally, it's very, very drop dependent. But yeah, I mean, obviously the throwing the paddle technique is awesome. It feels good, and it's one less thing that you have to deal with on landing. One less thing to break, one less thing to break you.
Tyler, have you gotten on the Washington tuck regime yet?
Oh, where you what is it? You keep a hold of just one hand or something?
It's like
you tuck and then you bring it in. Yeah, totally.
It's really hard.
I'm more of an Oregon tucker, dude. But yeah, dude, I haven't done the Washington tuck.
I've never done the Washington tuck either. I'm really interested.
So the genesis of this is actually, I think Todd Gilman had this idea actually. And the idea is basically like to have your arm like internally rotated and down, kind of in that position that your arm is in when it's in a sling. So it's sort of like the most stable position.
Right.
So it's like instead of having it up over your head, you have it tucked and internally rotated, and then you switch your hands so that you're in this super tight tuck with your shoulders not really exposed to anything.
Are you a Washington
it's hard.
Tucker?
I don't really run drops that high, man. Like Spirit is like kind of the top end for me. I mean, I've run like
We need to get a
50
Washington.
footers, and that's it. I'm old and fragile, man.
We need to get a Washington Tucker on the show.
Yeah.
I agree though, Lewis. I mean, I think that's I think that's a killer technique, man. I mean, it allows, definitely you're not, you don't have a lot of your paddle in front of you. Your arms are in a much safer place. I mean, it's also a matter of, of just, how much you want to deal with in free fall. I've always been, the reason that I do the Oregon tuck is just because, for me, I don't want to be playing around with like hand positions or like figuring out how to throw the paddle. I mean, the most important thing for me is my boat angle, and I feel like the more things that you're trying to fit into that short period of time, the more that you can like lose focus. I mean, I could see, I could definitely see on something, really big going for something like that. But, yeah, man, I think just play around with it. It's personal preference. I mean, it just comes down to your style and what you want to do. But I think you're right, Lewis. I think if you're holding onto your paddle, that's probably the safest way to do it.
There's some good nuggets in there. I'm sure our viewer will be stoked about that. So,
yeah. Did you guys follow all that?
Yeah. Totally. Basically, what I got out of that is just keep crashing until you figure out a way to make it not hurt as bad.
Don't crash in the flat way. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot lately about sort of, to me, it's like not just your angle, but like whether your boat's in the process of kind of becoming, like if the angle's becoming steeper or if you're flattening out. To me, that almost makes more difference than what the actual angle is. Like you sort of like want your bow coming down or like,
right, rather than rising, for
out.
Sure.
It's like even if you're steep, if your stern's kind of moving faster than your bow, you just flatten out right at the last second and like kind of like whiplash it right to your back. And it's like if you can just kind of have your bow moving like a little quicker than your stern, it seems
that's
like
a good point. And that's a good thing to keep in mind, and that'll help people as well. Just make sure that they don't land flat if you think about it in that regard, because a lot of times what happens is you'll see people with like decent boat angle off the lip, and then their boat will flatten out through free fall and it'll end up being bad. I mean, that's how I broke my back. I was totally sweet until about halfway down, and then I started flattening out. And so if you do think about that, just the the momentum of your boat and trying to, make sure that your bow is progressively dropping throughout the drop, then I think that's a great idea, man. That'll help ensure that you don't boof it. And at the end of the day, man, landing on your head is a million times better than landing flat. So, that's a good thing to keep in mind.
That's a good nugget too for our viewer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Tyler, do you have a little time to stick around here and go into some other bits of our show?
I mean, yeah, dude, I'm not doing anything. I'm just hanging out.
Killing protozoa.
Yeah, right.
Growing your mustache.
Just watching your lips bleed.
Exactly. That's what I've had all week.
All right, Lewis, let's throw this one over to you. John and I butchered up the whole congressional outdoor recreation thing. So can you set us a little straight on the bill that recently passed Congress, what it was and what it means and kind of your work on it?
REC Act is, I think it's like Recreation's Economic Contributions Act. Like that's the acronym. Passed the House and the Senate. Congress did something good, which is surprising. That bill was like a big priority of the Outdoor Industry Association, who we work really closely with. They're the trade group for outdoor businesses. They put on Outdoor Retailer Trade Show. Super good partners of ours. For a long time, OIA has done their own economic study every few years to talk about the size of the outdoor recreation economy, and it's something like $646 billion in annual consumer spending. Employs 6.1 million Americans, and they have like state level numbers as well for every state, and those numbers get cited all the time by
Whitewater's like what, 24% of that last time I looked?
Oh, easily.
To our
Yeah.
viewers,
I'm sorry.
that was Weld humor. Anyway,
Yeah.
continue.
So, I mean, I think that, having that, being able to make those economic arguments about the importance of outdoor recreation is super important. It's like, in a way, it feels a little bit crass to kind of like reduce the things that we care about so much and the places that we go to dollars and cents. But there are people who kind of don't operate in our world, people in Congress especially, who that's all they hear, right? And so when you're able to say, they're talking about, increasing logging, increasing oil and gas development on public lands, and to be able to say, look, like, there are a lot of other ways to generate economic contributions from protected public lands. Like, these are, protecting these places is important. It's not just taking them out of economic contribution. Like, this is the infrastructure for the outdoor recreation economy. Mm-hmm. And so having, instructing, I think it's Bureau of Labor Statistics that's going to make these calculations, once the REC Act becomes law, but just making sure that that's sort of thoroughly integrated into our, the way the government tracks the economy is going to be valuable for making sure that our interests get represented in public land decisions, whether it's investing in trail systems or, conserving places. I think that recognizing that outdoor recreation is a real legitimate economic driver is important and valuable for that stuff. So it's good, super good.
That was so much
how
better
does
than Weld and I.
So how's it looking for the transition right now? Where are we headed? What are the problems looming here for the next year or so as things shape up?
It's like I'm trying to not be so negative about this, right? Like, we got to just keep on keeping on. But I guess we're waiting to see who the new Secretary of the Interior is going to be, and I think that that's going to tell a lot about what the new administration's priorities are for public lands. Whether it's somebody from oil and gas industry or whether it's somebody who has a more holistic view of the value of public lands is going to be telling. With regard to public lands, what little Trump has said has been, a little bit conflicting, probably unsurprisingly. So it kind of remains to be seen. I think we have to just be super vigilant and, ready to work on areas where there might be some common ground and fight super hard for the things that matter. We, Outdoor Alliance, we put together kind of a document for the transition team on sort of what the priorities are for our community, and shared that working with Outdoor Industry Association and Conservation Alliance and People for Bikes. So we're kind of sharing that right now. We're kind of keeping that, give those guys some time to sort of digest it before we start pushing that out publicly. But we'll do that, in the weeks to come, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for everyone in our community to, get active and get loud and share our priorities, because I think that that's going to be really important. Those guys, I think that they probably don't have a ton of hard and fast opinions, honestly. And so making sure that they understand that we do is going to be important.
Killer.
What are those things that the community can do to make their voices heard? I mean, what kind of resources do we have available to put our weight behind these initiatives and sort of, make, just kind of come together as one collective voice to help this out? Are there online resources? Are there petitions that we need to be doing? Are there organizations we should be donating to? I mean, what's the way forward there for the for the viewer?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, man. I mean, I think obviously I'm super partial to OA, but American Whitewater is one of our member groups. They do amazing work. IMBA, Access Fund, like our whole coalition, all of these groups that are like a little bit more sport specific are, joining those organizations is important. It's like, it's more than just your $35. It's giving those organizations the legitimacy to be able to go to Congress, to go to the agencies and say, hey, we represent a small sport, but the overwhelming majority of the people who participate, pony up to protect these places and to kind of speak on behalf of our community's values, and to help give those organizations the legitimacy they need to do the work in addition to the $35. And that also, kind of can be the springboard for them raising money from other sources. And, all of those groups, we're all going to keep our community kind of in the loop on what's going on, whether it's just like email action alerts or Facebook or whatever it might be. And, we're really trying to think about ways to engage the community. And so, it's going to be, reaching out to your congressional offices. It's like, if you don't know who your congressman is, like you should, you should. And it's like those, being consistently in contact with those offices and letting them know what you think about things is valuable. It's not just showing up and voting every 4 years. It's when you get an action alert or whatever it might be from an organization that you work with, take 5 minutes and call your congressman's office. It's like, when people first told me this thing about calling Congress offices, it's like, it sounded crazy to me, right? Like the idea that like you'd call somebody at work and just like tell them what your opinion is about what they're doing and they should like, do what you want. It's like I'm sure Weld gets a lot of that, and I know he really appreciates it.
I love it. I love it when customers call and give me their opinion. That's
like, these guys actually, they legitimately expect that. It's like you're not like being up to it. It's not like some active.
Okay. Also, to be fair, I do love it when customers call and give me their opinion. I love my customers. I shouldn't have said that.
I was going to tell Don Weld what's wrong with your dry suit and calling you person and telling them, what you care about on public lands.
Yeah.
So, I think that it's funny to say, but there's definitely some people in Congress who are more important than others because they're on like super relevant committees for public land stuff. So like, Tyler out in Montana, Ryan Zinke is like your congressman. He's on the House Natural Resources Committee, and he's someone who has, in contrast to a lot of his Republican colleagues, has shown some inclination to do some good things on public lands issues. And I think, being ready to like reach out to him and saying, hey, like good job, like way to, we appreciate that you bucked your party on this and stood up for public lands in Montana, or, that last vote you took, that was wrong. Like you need to, stay firm and, protect these places that matter to all of us. And so just kind of being engaged, knowing who your representatives are, being ready to get involved, and we'll try those opportunities kind of basis.
What's our website?
OutdoorAlliance.org.
OutdoorAlliance.org. Get on the mailing list and give your representative a call. Now, I hate to rush our show along, but I'm getting ready to get in a car and drive to the Grand Canyon. As soon as I hit stop here on the record, the vehicle is officially in my driveway. So let's go on to our favorite part of the show, Rants and Raves. I'm going to start us off with a rave, and it just came to me.
Come on, because I have a rave.
You never have raves.
I have a rave.
All right, well, you can rave as well.
But I don't have to
rave
every week.
All right, but
Tyler may have something to add to this rave as well. I'm not sure, but I think
I'm going to get my rave out there. I'm raving about modern medicine because Tyler has a face. So, modern medicine. That's what I got.
Right. Love it.
Louis, you better be thinking of a rant. Or one of you too.
Well,
my rave is Taiwan.
Taiwan, all right.
Taiwan. So I'm going to Taiwan tomorrow morning. Taiwan has the largest collection of 3,000 meter peaks in the world. 240 mountains in Taiwan over 3,000 meters, and they're all within 200 miles of the ocean, right?
There you go.
And it's huge untapped wilderness in there. There's snow-capped mountains up in there. If you guys, and also if you like biking, take a look at the Taiwan KOM, King of the Mountain. It looks like the Pyrenees. It's amazing. And there is some serious whitewater in there. And I'm going with my friend Todd Baker, coworker Todd Baker, and we're going to do a little exploring while we're over there.
Nice.
Yeah. No one knows. Do you think Taiwan? You're thinking, it looks like Delaware. No, sir.
Hey, bring some pictures. Bring some pictures or video back to the Hammer Factor.
But I mentioned Tyler. Have you paddled there before?
No,
There's been
I
an
haven't-
American group of
I haven't
paddlers
found
there.
it before, man. Put it on the list, dude. That's awesome.
You take a look. Go to Google Earth and just do a little flyover. You will be shocked at what's going on over there in terms of terrain.
Sweet, man. Bring back a report for us, dude.
Yes.
That's epic.
All right, so
And they get a lot of rain.
I'm ranting modern medicine. Weld is ranting Taiwan.
Raven.
I'm raving Taiwan. We need some
Yeah.
rants, boys.
All right, man. I'll throw out a rant just because I wanted to throw a little more weight behind the stuff that Lewis was just saying, and it's just, I mean, I would say, dude, take action, whatever it is. I mean, if you're watching this and you're not a member of American Whitewater, I mean, I'd go on there, sign up. The other thing is that people don't realize how influential they can be just as individuals and how far they can go. Just like Lewis is saying, like making a phone call. I mean, I wasn't getting results from the CDC, and so, dude, I called the CDC. I ended up getting the head of the parasitic lab testing department on the phone. I mean, like this top dude at the CDC. I mean, and the guy's like personally telling me about when he's going to be able to do this test, and it really, made things go along for this Leishmaniasis thing I got happening. So I would just say, whatever it is, if it's calling your congressman or taking action in whatever way you want to, I mean, send it. You just got to go for it. Get on the phone, get out there, make your voice heard, and it can really have some hugely positive effects on some of these issues that we're dealing with. So, yeah, Lewis, nice work out there, buddy, man. I'm
Thanks,
proud
man.
of you, dude.
So
Thanks, man.
Tyler
Cheers.
rants about the unengaged. All right. So
Right.
what do you got, Lewis?
Man, this is a rant suggested to me by my buddy and our loyal listener, Neil Schott, who just had to have shoulder surgery and is at home limping along, recovering. And my rant is about shoulders and getting old. Man, my shoulders are just in a dire state, just like horrible arthritis. It's like, it's awful. But maybe modern medicine will pull through for all of us. So optimism remains.
Yeah.
That's a good one, man. I got so many creaks in my shoulders. It's just, I don't even know. All right, boys. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Does anybody have anything that they would like to add? Tyler, you're the man, dude. I appreciate it.
We will see
Yeah, dude.
everyone right before Christmas, right? It's going to be a little bit of a breaky poo here.
I'm going to turn this into
we head out to
a couple episodes here, but yeah, I'm headed to the Grand Canyon. You're going to Taiwan, Lewis. You typically aren't around anyway, and Tyler, you'll be at your mom's.
Oh, you're getting a pay cut, by the way, Lewis. So
Yeah, feel free to withhold my paycheck for this episode.
Paycheck.
Boys.
All right. Well,
Sweet.
All right.
All right, thanks, Tyler.
Cheers, bud.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. See ya.
thanks, Tyler. We'll see you, man.